What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another very important AMC update to bring all of you this evening. So what we're going to be covering in this update video is, we're going to be taking a look at the Ortex short interest and utilization numbers and the changes that we saw on those numbers today. But the two main things that I really want to cover in this video is why is AMC crashing so much, coming down to these really, really low levels that we really have not seen since all the way back in May. Now, I get it. It is very, very difficult to see the price in your brokerage account or the value of your brokerage account start to decrease if you are holding a lot of AMC. And for those people that may not be able to handle the volatility that we are seeing right now, you can go. It is perfectly fine. Nobody is going to fault you for that. It is your money and you get to decide what you do with it. But what we are looking at here is some of the craziest, highest amount of psychological warfare and potentially price manipulation that we have ever seen. Now, what we really need to look at here is what exactly is going on and why this is happening specifically right now. But the main thing that we need to think about here is that the core group of people that really know what's going on with the whole entire market, how messed up our system is, and how manipulated AMC and GME and a lot of these other stocks are, those people are not leaving. The apes in general are not going anywhere. So they can try to shake this price down and scare some retail investors out, but it is not going to work. We have seen this time and time again where AMC will have a very significant sell-off and then eventually it will come roaring back up. Then the other thing that we really need to go over is what we're kind of seeing right now, how the play on AMC is kind of changing. Now, we are seeing the overall fundamentals of the movie theater industry really start to continue to the upside. There are some really key metrics that I want you guys to look at right here that is really, really bullish for the stock and the overall industry going into the end of next year and even beyond, where this stock could potentially be valued at over $50 a share just based on fundamentals alone. So before we get into all of that information, if you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provide for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn it. If you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So when we come over to the Ortex data over here, let's just give this a quick refresh. We are seeing the utilization at 76.38%. They took out 1.01 million shares against AMC today, returned 1.4 million, which doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense if the stock is down at 10%. The estimated short interest right now is about 19.17%. So why is AMC really coming down? Putting the market selling off aside, there are some really, really key reasons that we need to look at here, and it has to do with the option chain. Now, I know a lot of people are very excited about that January expiration date that is coming up next week, but again, we are going to need to see a lot of buying pressure to really get us even onto the gamma ramp in order to see that extra buying volume get put in. But this is an option chain that does have an incredibly high amount of potential for the stock to go up, which is why the market makers are messing around with the price so much, and I don't believe that they are hedging one bit. When we come over to the option chain and we even look at the weekly, and we look at the total open interest on the call and put side, well, the calls are going to be outweighing the puts. And what we've been seeing on the actual option chain for AMC, when we pull this up over here and take a look at the weeklies, we can see that the call volume today on these at-the-money strikes is starting to step up. We saw 36,000 at the 25, which is pretty deep out of the money right now, but we saw 8,000 in volume at the 21, 19,000 at 22, 23,000 at 23, and a lot of these contracts are going to pop up in this open interest tomorrow, meaning that as AMC starts to sell off, here's what's happening. Well, a lot of people are starting to buy calls, which is really increasing the exposure on the upside for these market makers. If the stock starts to run, they're going to have to hedge, like we've been explaining many times. But since the stock price is coming down, we are seeing the deltas on these puts starting to increase. Now, when we think about what's going on with this option chain right here, and we look at, well, there are more calls in total on the option chain than there are puts. Well, in order to maintain that delta neutral status without going out in the open market and shorting shares to basically hedge those puts or buy shares to hedge the calls, in order to become delta neutral, you need the price to be a lot lower. Now, the problem here with what the market makers are doing by trying to keep the price so low below the max pain again for that big January expiration date, which right now it's about at 22. The problem with this is that every time the price starts to decrease, you see the volume on the option chain start to skyrocket. I would not be surprised if tomorrow on this January expiration date, these 599,000 calls that are out of the money right now, this total number went up to 610, 620, 630,000 call contracts that are slightly out of the money that people are finally starting to realize, well, it's probably not the best idea to be buying the furthest strike out on the options chain, and buying closer to the money strikes, one, is going to give you a lot less risk and could potentially hurt the market makers even more. So we're seeing this kind of bouncing back and forth where the market makers are trying to keep it in this little range or lower, but if they let the price go down low enough, one, the buyers could come right back in. We could see the price start to bounce back up tomorrow, or people are just going to start buying calls and the price doesn't even need to come back as high in order to see them kind of start to notice that they're not going to be able to maintain that delta neutral or directionally neutral status in their system by just selling calls and puts. They're going to need to go out in the open market and buy those shares. Now, is that going to cause a massive gamma squeeze? Well, it's possible, but before that even happens, we are going to need to see buying volume come back in. If we don't see that, we are not going to have that big run up that everybody is expecting. Now, let's get into the way that AMC and this play that we are looking at right now is changing. So the first thing is that we have to think about the fundamental value of a stock. Now, for AMC right now, I've said this many times, I think it is relatively impossible to get an accurate understanding of AMC's fundamental value right now. They're in a very interesting situation where they're going to be starting to pay off their debt, which is going to influence the discount rate that you are going to use to discount the cash flows in the classic discounted cash flow model that you use to value companies. And it's also going to be very difficult to forecast AMC's cash flows into the future. They have the NFT business, they have the popcorn business, they have people returning to the movie theaters. How are you going to get an accurate representation of what AMC's cash flows are going to be? And how are you going to get an accurate discount rate to discount those values back to a present value today? So I've seen a lot of people saying that we're at fundamental value for AMC, and I would argue that AMC's fundamental value right now is at least $28 a share. But after AMC's next earnings, if we can see some of the things mentioned in this article right here, we are potentially going to see a lot of institutions start to pile back in. Now, are these institutions going to start piling back in right now? Well, it's possible, and it makes a lot of sense that they would, because in order for AMC to reach that free cash flow profitability number, well, we needed to see at least a $2 billion box office number, which we ended up seeing. So right around now would be a pretty good time to see a lot of institutions start to pile back in. But as we come down a little bit further, as a result, we can use this estimate to estimate its ongoing value. Right now, AMC has a market cap of $20.56 billion. Again, this article was from back in November, but if we assume that free cash flow could hit 10% of sales next year, or $466 million, the market value could easily reach $23.3 to $31.07 billion. This is based on a free cash flow yield of between 1.5 and 2%. So for example, if we divide $466 million by 2%, the target market cap equals $23.3 billion. At a 1% free cash flow yield, the market cap $31.07 billion. Now, that would leave AMC at an average target price of $52.16. That is more than double what we are trading at right now. We are back to where we were back in March of 2021, where we were all kind of thinking in the back of our minds, well, if this doesn't have some sort of massive squeeze, well, overall, this company is going to continue to get better as a business, and their fundamental value is going to increase, a win-win for us. Now, again, with the amount of manipulation and the crazy amount of shorting, and honestly, the crazy price action that we've seen on AMC, obviously, I still think there is a potential for a massive squeeze. But what we have to realize is that this is going to take a very long time, potentially a very long time to play out, because we're going to need to see AMC's fundamentals get better, more institutions start to pile in, and yes, this week and next week does have the potential for a big run-up, but if it doesn't happen, we're kind of in the same place that we were previously. We are always going to see these massive options dates start to pile up, so it's not like this January date is going to come and go, and that's going to be it. We still have AMC's earnings, the potential for another big pile up on an options chain in the future, and the market makers needing to unwind a lot of the positions and potential shorting that they've done in order to keep the price of AMC down over these last couple of weeks. So the main things that I really want to get across in this video is that I've said this a couple of times on a few live streams, but the price is not what I'm using in order to give me an accurate understanding of where we stand with this investment into AMC. Are the fundamentals continually getting better? Absolutely. Are the shorts covering their positions? No. In fact, they're actually adding to their positions when the stock is trading far below, in my opinion, and again, fundamental value is an opinion, it is all subjective, far below what AMC's fundamental value is currently at. And again, we are seeing AMC, GME, and sometimes Bed Bath & Beyond really trade in tandem when these stocks start to make big moves. So again, they're all kind of linked in some sort of messed up meme stock basket that a lot of these institutions are over leveraged on. So at the end of the day, I'm not going anywhere. I know you guys aren't going anywhere either. So let's see what tomorrow brings us. We'll be live at 8:30 in the morning, and that is going to wrap up this update on AMC. If you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So I hope you guys are having a good evening, and I'll see you guys in the next video.